You got to be ready for playoffs.
16 minutes, you understand me?
4 quarters that we gonna go at it, my friend.
Nothing you can say if you don't do it.
Something like no other.
We're the Fantasy Addicts, and this is our playoff preview. Going to the NFC, out east, Dallas.
Dallas. All right, Dallas has Pittsburgh, followed by the Giants, and finishing up with the Ravens. I don't like Barber going down the stretch. Those are 3 strong defensive teams against the run, and I think he's going to be up against it.
Now, if Dallas has gotten it together, like it looks like they might have, and they're putting up 30 a game, then they'll still put up 22, 24 on these guys, and chances are you're going to have a 1-yard run. You know, a couple times during those 3 games.
Basically, if you can find somebody stupid enough to take Barber off your hands and give you something good, do it.
T.O., Roy Williams, Patrick Creighton, I love them.
Romo.
I love them all.
That Romo's going to have to pass on these teams for the simple fact that we just said you cannot run.
The Giants have Philly, Dallas, and Carolina. It's not a great playoff schedule.
Not a great schedule going against those defenses. I don't like that at all.
Brandon Jacobs is nicked up with a knee. Not good for big boy. And so Derek Ward, I think he has all kinds of value.
I think Eli will be okay going down the stretch. I think those teams, they're hard to run against, so I think Eli's going to be forced to put the ball in the air.
Plax. I don't know whether that fool's suspended, hurt, manic depressive. I don't even know. He's got problems, though, and he's barely ever on the field. Amani Toomer, I haven't heard his name.
Well, he scored a touchdown last week, and that's why I like Eli.
Yeah.
Even though Plax wasn't there, Eli scored. He put up 3 touchdowns.
Next, you have Philly. Philly has the Giants, Cleveland, and Washington. Now, the Giants and Washington can stop the run. Cleveland cannot.
Westbrook, you know, if he's healthy, of course you're going to play him.
Week 15, Cleveland, he could go to work. They could beat the pants off of Cleveland. Kevin Curtis and Deshaun Jackson, both streaky and mediocre at best.
I don't like Donovan McNabb going down the stretch. I just think he's been too inconsistent lately. You know, you can't expect big numbers from Donovan.
Washington, who has Baltimore, Cincy, and Philadelphia.
All right, for Washington, against Baltimore, it's going to be tough sledding for Portis. But, you know, against Cincy and Philly, I think you can start him with confidence.
You know, and even Baltimore, Portis has proven that he's the man this year. You know?
Well, even against Pittsburgh, when he didn't get a lot of rushing yards, he made up for it with the receiving.
I don't love their passing game. I know you can move the ball on Cincy and Philly, but Santana Moss has been all over the place in the second half. You shouldn't be dependent on him at this point. Same thing with Chris Cooley. Chris Cooley really hasn't made much noise.
Well, Chris Cooley has been consistent. He hasn't exploded for any big games.
Who to look like in Washington, though, is the defense. Because Baltimore, Cincy, and Philadelphia could all put up a goose egg at any given moment. And you know, they haven't put up a lot of points this year. They haven't made a lot of big plays. But down the stretch, if your guys aren't producing, tell me you're not going to start Washington against Cincy. Going north, NFC North, start with your boys, Chicago.
Chicago Bears. They have a nice schedule with Jacksonville, New Orleans, and Green Bay. And by nice, I mean for Matt Forte.
Yeah, he could be the man come playoff time.
I think he's going to be the #1 running back for those 3 weeks.
And he's really the only one I like in Chicago. You know, Kyle Orton hasn't looked the same since coming back from the injury. Greg Olsen, another guy, there 1 week, gone another. Their receivers, I guess Lloyd might be getting healthy, but I mean, his days of production.
They're using Hester in different ways, but I think they've taken away his kickoff, responsibilities. Right. So, he loses some value there, so I don't like Hester either.
Next, we're going to Detroit with the surprising Kevin Smith. I've been liking Kevin lately, man. I know it's Detroit, and the only reason he's getting any looks is because Big Booty Dante is back there.
Man, looking at this schedule, I think Detroit's going to be the first team to go 0-16.
But, they have Minnesota, Indy, and New Orleans.
They're going to lose every one of those games.
Badly.
Handily.
Badly. But Kevin Smith is going to be getting the ball. He's the only show in town. And against Minnesota.
I like the other show they got in town. Calvin.
Right. And so
Calvin Johnson.
If Dante can't get him the ball, they've been connected about twice a game. One of them for about 50 yards and a touchdown. If that happens, you're in good shape.
He keeps producing.
Next we got Green Bay with Houston, Jacksonville, and Chicago. Ryan Grant has been running strong. He's been looking like what people expected of him the first 10 games of the year. You've been getting him like the last 3. And against Houston and Jacksonville, you can take advantage. He's going to have a hard time running in Chicago, though.
Well, actually, against Chicago, the last time they met, he put up over 100 yards.
That's true. That is true.
Huge game
and a touchdown,
Chicago.
didn't he?
Yeah, a touchdown.
Yeah,
I like Ryan Grant.
I like Ryan Grant for the playoffs. I really like Greg Jennings. He had a little lull there mid-season, but he's back. Caught a touchdown last week. And they're going to put up points on all three of those games.
Well, I like Favre's understudy, too.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
I think Rodgers could have a big playoff.
All right, and then to Minnesota, where Adrian Peterson should have been, I guess, the number 1 overall pick in everybody's league this year. I mean, if he's not at the top of the scoring list, he is from the guys who you thought would be up there. And so he's got...
Well, I mean, as far as running back.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as running back.
Detroit, Arizona, Atlanta. He's going to go to work.
If you need a receiver, give Berrien a look. He started off strong, and it looks like he's starting to slump a little bit lately. But I say give him a look if you need somebody at the receiver position.
Yeah, Detroit and Arizona and Atlanta are teams that you can put points on the board on. To the NFC South, Atlanta.
All right, Atlanta has New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota.
It's not the most favorable schedule.
With Turner, you can start on week 14 against the Saints. But I'm not so sure going against the Bucs and the Vikings the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You might want to sit him.
I don't like Turner at all. Roddy White is the real deal.
Roddy White has emerged as the go-to guy there. I like Roddy White. I definitely like Matt Ryan, and if you're going to give one of those receivers a look, I would say it should be Jenkins over Douglas.
Carolina, who got their ass handed to them last week.
They did, and they're playing Tampa Bay, Denver, and the Giants for the fantasy playoffs.
And so Denver looks great. We put up a gang of points against Denver. But Tampa Bay and the Giants are a little scary, especially when Jake Delhomme is just reeling. He is not, the offense is effective. Jake Delhomme is not, which hurts Steve Smith.
D'Angelo Williams, if you've been relying on him the last few weeks with those big performances, I say the time has run out. He's going to have some tough matchups with Tampa Bay and then with the Giants in Week 16. Next team we have is New Orleans, and their playoff schedule is Atlanta, Chicago, and Detroit. If Reggie Bush is back and playing, of course you play Reggie Bush.
Right.
If Bush is not back, you play Pierre Thomas. Pierre Thomas is the guy getting the catches out of the backfield. Deuce, I don't like Deuce. Leave Deuce alone.
Billy Miller has come out of nowhere to be the tight end in New Orleans instead of Jeremy Shockey. And Marcus Colston, he only caught one ball, but it was for 70 yards and a touchdown. So continue to look at him. In all three of these games, I think Colston could have a great playoffs. Same thing with Lance Moore. Tampa Bay, they have Carolina, Atlanta, San Diego. Not great, not horrible.
Going against those three defenses, I think Warwick Dunn could have a nice 3 games there.
Do you really want to be starting Warwick Dunn in your fantasy playoffs for all the marbles?
That one's on me. I like Dunn.
I like him for building houses for single moms, not so much.
He's a good guy. Karma goes a long way.
You're going to the NFC West. You have Arizona. You have St. Louis, Minnesota, and New England.
For Arizona, I think it's going to be the usual suspects,
Fitz and Bolden.
Warner, Fitz, Bolden.
Right, and so Hightower will get the touchdowns on the ground, but man, he doesn't get any yards.
Against St. Louis, he probably get in the end zone. Against Minnesota and New England, don't count on it.
Next we got St. Louis, who has Arizona, Seattle, and San Fran in the playoffs.
It's a nice schedule, but
they don't have anybody to take advantage of it.
Exactly. Jackson's not healthy. If he's back, play him,
Oh, if Jackson comes back, play him, because he finished strong down the stretch last year after coming back from an injury.
If he's back.
Yeah, he's a big guy who plays for the name on the back of the jersey. He's got a lot of pride. He's going to come out and put up numbers if he's back. Avery and Holt, I don't even want to talk about them. San Francisco.
All right, San Francisco has the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Rams.
So the Rams at Week 16 is awesome for Frank Gore. The Jets of Miami, not so much, man. But again, he's Frank Gore.
I think he can have a
workhorse.
Yeah, I think he can have a solid game against the Dolphins. Against the Jets, I think the Jets are going to take away any running game the 49ers have. But look for Gore to get some catches out of the backfield.
Isaac Bruce had signs of life with his.
He had a big game last week. I'm not so sold.
Morgan's hurt. Bryant Johnson turns invisible at the drop of a hat. Sean Hill looked terrible last week. But Frank Gore's the only guy in my mind.
If you need a tight end, maybe give Vernon Davis a look.
Maybe.
Nah. Maybe
not. If you're making a remake of The Predator, I'd give Vernon Davis a look. Otherwise, I'd leave him alone. All right, Seattle.
All right, Seattle has New England, St. Louis, and the Jets.
So Julius Jones is back this week, but
I don't like Julius.
St. Louis, deploy him at will.
Do you like anybody from Seattle?
Nah, they don't have anybody. Deion Branch is back, but worse than he was when he wasn't there.
John Carlson at tight end.
And that's it. That's our fantasy football playoff preview. Check out the website, thefantasyaddicts.com, for a more in-depth look at some of the players, some of the things we talked about. That's it.
It's a wrap.